These are mistakes that I see a lot of people making when they're trying to pay off their debts. And some of these mistakes, I have made them myself. Let's dive in. Number one, not having a real why. A lot of people say they want to get out of debt. And I don't know whether they say that because everybody is saying they want to get out of debt, but they don't have a real why they want to get out of debt. Or if they do have a why, sometimes it's not strong enough, but you need a strong why. Why is it that you want to get out of debt? Because things happen when you're on this debt-free journey. People start and stop and go because they don't have a strong why. So make sure you have a strong why and sit down, take your time and write down and say, why is it that I want to get out of debt? Mistake number two is wanting to pay off your debt without a budget. A lot of people don't have a budget. They don't even know how much extra they want to pay on this debt, or they just say that I just want to get out of debt, but yet they don't even have a working budget. So make sure you have a working budget, because when you have a working budget, this is where you figure out how much money is coming in, how much money is going out, and if you want to pay off debt, how much extra money will you be paying off, will you be having to pay off your debts? Because if you don't have that extra money, or can you even afford to pay the debt if your budget is not functioning properly? So make sure you have a working budget. Mistake number three is not knowing even how much you owe. A lot of people, again, wants to pay off their debts, but they don't even have the whole big picture. They know they're in debt. They don't know how much money they owe. They don't even know how much interest they're paying on their cards, and they don't even know sometimes how long it's going to take them to pay off these debts. So we get into debt, and sometimes these numbers are buggling, and you might not even know that one of your cards is at 30% interest rate, and you might just be paying just to pay just because that's what you do. So knowing your numbers, knowing how much is it that I owe everybody. So make sure that you have a pen and paper before you decide that you want to get out of debt. Write down all your debts. Who is it that you owe? Your car payment, that MasterCard, Visa, anybody that you owe. Write everything down, because if you don't have a plan, then how are you gonna know what debt are you gonna attack? Sometimes you might be paying all this debt, and sometimes one of the debts is more emergent, and you might need to pay one of these debts off quicker than the other one. But if you don't know how these debts are looking, then you are making a big mistake, and it might be costing you a lot of money. So sit down and look at all the debts that you have. Mistake number four is trying to pay off all your debt at the same time. This one is one of the mistakes I was making myself before I looked at all my debts and decided, you know what, this is not working. So what I did is that instead of trying to pay all of my debts, I decided I'm concentrating on one debt at a time. And I can tell you, when you concentrate on one debt at a time, it is much faster and it goes quicker, because when you're concentrating on that one debt, all your efforts are on that debt. I used to pay extra here, extra there, extra on all my debts, and it didn't feel like we're moving. It was moving, but it wasn't like really moving. But once I started attacking one debt at a time, that's changed everything. And I have this one debt right now that I'm attacking, and actually I did a video on that, and you can watch it over here. That debt, it was two credit cards that I had consolidated, and they had 19,800, and that debt right now is 3,000 and change. I will attach the number here, and you'll see how fast that debt is going. That debt, I was supposed to pay it off in 5 years, but I'm almost done with it, and it's only been 2 years. So don't spread your money so thin. Concentrate on one debt at a time, and once you concentrate on one debt at a time, you're gonna pay your debts off faster. Mistake number 5 is not having an emergency fund. This one is a mistake that a lot of people make. They go all in on saying, oh my goodness, I want to get our debt, I want to get our debt, but they don't even have an emergency fund. They don't even have $1,000 that's set aside just in case something happens. So they just like, oh no, I cannot afford an emergency fund. I just need to pay off these debts. Big mistake, because guess what? Things do happen. And when things happen, guess what happens? You go back to getting that credit card, you go back to start using those cards again, and then you're back. All the efforts that you have done, it's all wiped out. This is what I would recommend for you. Instead of just going all in on paying off your debt, make sure you have at least 1 month of your expenses put aside somewhere. And if you're not in a position to put off like maybe just all your expenses for 1 month aside, start small. Start maybe even if it's $500, and then just keep piling it up a little bit. When you pay off your debt, put a little bit on the emergency fund until maybe you get to 1,000. Because let's say you burst a tire, or it's summer, the AC is running and something happens to it, then you're left with running to the credit card that you have been trying to pay off. So make sure that you don't make this mistake of not having an emergency fund. Mistake number 6 is only paying the minimum on your debts. A lot of people think like, so long as I'm paying off my debts, it's okay. Whenever they get paid, they get paid. Big mistakes. Unless you are on a debt-free journey, or you're concentrating on one debt and the other ones you're paying on minimum. If you're paying minimum on all your debts, you're making a big mistake, because all the money that you're paying, it's all going into the interest, most of it. And especially these days, if you have high interest credit cards, the money that you're paying, if you're only paying the minimum, is just going to interest. And this mistakes happens because a lot of people don't even look at their credit card statement to see how much money went into my balance and how much money did my debt reduce by. So make sure you're not making this mistake unless you're concentrating on one debt at a time, where all your extra money is going to this one big debt, and then all these other debts you're only paying the minimum because you have a goal. And when this debt is paid off, you go to the next one. You pay the minimum on all the other ones, and then you're taking one by one. So don't make mistake of just paying the minimum, because when you're paying the minimum, all the money is going to enrich the CEOs of the company. Finally use the money, but all that interest you're paying, it's a passive income for somebody else. Mistake number 7 is trying to change everything overnight. This mistake is where they're like, okay, I'm done. I want to pay off all my debt. This is it. They cut down on all their spending. They cut down on every single thing. And they are like, I'm done with my debts. So what happens when people do this is, you can only do this for so long. You can only do this maybe for a month or two, where you're cutting back on everything. Some people like, okay, our grocery shopping is $600. We are cutting it down to $300, and then you're barely eating. Or you're like, okay, we're cutting the cable. We're not eating out. We're not doing this. We're not doing this. There is nothing wrong with cutting back. At the beginning, you're motivated because you're like, we gotta get these debts down. But then month 1, is that sustainable? Month 2, is that still sustainable? Month 3, down the line, it's gonna feel frustrating, and you're gonna start feeling like, oh my goodness, this is not even doable. And this is where a lot of people give up, because sometimes they went all the way, like the extreme, where they're like, I'm cutting everything. So my recommendation is that do not go to that extreme. And I know there are people that say, eat rice, beans and rice. Cut everything until all the kids think they're gonna be the next one. Don't do that. Do yourself a favor. Start with one thing at a time and cut down slowly. And when you cut down slowly, it's gonna be doable, and it's not gonna feel like you're denying yourself, and it's not going to feel frustrating when you cannot afford even sometimes grocery, or when you're eating beans and rice and beans every day. It's going to feel frustrating, and you're going to give up, and then you're going to start accumulating more debt. So cut down slowly. Mistake number 8 is still charging your credit card while you're still paying off your debt. So this mistake is where people feel like, I am doing so well, I've paid, let's say $2,000, it's time to reward myself. And guess how they reward themselves? They go the same cards that they've been paying, they go start charging on things. Let's say they get their nails done, they buy themselves something good because they tell themselves, I have been working so hard and I deserve it. So don't make this mistake. If you have to reward yourself, do something small or save that money and then reward yourself with something small. And it should not be on credit card. Use cash on your debit card and make sure that that money is not putting you, that whatever you're rewarding yourself with, that it's not putting you into further debt. So don't make this mistake of where you are putting yourself back into debt by charging your cards that you're trying to pay off. Mistake number 9 is comparing your journey to other people's journeys. With the age of social media where you hear so-and-so say, I paid off $100,000 in 10 months, I paid $15,000 in a week. You know, in this age where we compare and we feel like that person is doing better than us, let your journey be your journey, because you don't even know what the other person is doing or what their circumstance is. Maybe you're doing your very best, and even if it's $10 that you have paid off or $200 in a month, that is a lot of money according to you. Don't worry whether Sister Mary paid $1,000 in a week. It's okay. That's her journey. Don't compare your journey with other people's journey, because when we compare our journeys to other people's journeys, it can be frustrating. And as I said, you get frustrated and you don't even know the circumstance of that person. They could have gotten a bonus. They might have a side hustle. They might be making a lot of money, and for them to be able to pay that kind of amount, it's nothing. Well, us here, maybe you're barely putting a dent on your debt and you compare with yourself. It can be frustrating and you can feel like you're not doing anything and you can feel like you are going to give up. So let your journey be your journey and don't compare yourself with somebody else. Mistake number 10 is giving up after a setback. A lot of people feel like, oh, now that I have started this debt-free journey, there should not be any setback and it's supposed to be smooth all the way until you're debt-free. But guess what? Stuff happens, life happens, you never know. You could have had, maybe you had an emergency fund, but still something happened and you had a setback. So if you had a setback, remember, do not give up. Keep going, because a setback doesn't mean that you have failed. It's a setback and it's part of that journey. So keep continuing, and when you keep continuing, you're gonna see your wins, because guess what? That is just one little hump. That doesn't mean because there was detours that we are not gonna get into our destinations. There's gonna be a detour, but still you're gonna get into that destination. So make sure that you do not give up and say this is all a wash, because when you start over again, then that's another frustration. So make sure that you do not give up. Those are the 10 mistakes that I see a lot of people making. As I said, some of them I have made myself. Let me know in the comments, are you on your debt-free journey? Have you made some of these mistakes, or what other mistakes have you seen people making, or what other mistakes have you made yourself that I did not cover today? Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on my next video. And do not forget to like and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next one.